Okay, let's go for part two. Craig Johnson. Uh, okay, what is the greatest lesson you've learned thus far in your writing career?
Oh, I think a lot of it goes back. There was a really wonderful speech that John Steinbeck gave when he was getting I believe it was it might have been the Nobel Prize, like for literature, where he talked about, how good writing approaches a universality of the human condition. That's something I feel very strongly. Like that, I think that, we all have a lot more in common than we have in difference. It seems like nowadays everybody's kind of pushing us, certainly politically and socially and culturally, into all of these little pigeonholes, where we're all separated and we're all different and all of this. You know what? We're all human beings, and we have a lot in common, and I just hate to see everybody kind of galvanized against everybody else. I mean, with cultural appropriation and all these other things, saying, well, you can't write about a certain type of people. Well, then what does that mean, that certain types of people can't write about other certain types of people? Does that mean that men can't write about women, that women can't write about men, that nobody can write about horses? I mean, it gets really kind of stupid really quick. And that doesn't lend itself to a universal kind of understanding of being able to, stand in someone else's shoes and understand, the direction that they're coming from, or what it is that they're trying to say. That's good literature. That's where we try and understand each other as well as we can. And for me, that's got to be the number one learning lesson for me, an issue that has become very important to me as the years have gone by.
What piece of advice would you want to share with other writers?
Oh, I mean, a lot of it doesn't, come from the more technical aspects. I mean, you can learn the more technical aspects of being an author. I think the difficulty is like deciding what it is that you want to do, what kind of an author you want to be. I knew that, I wanted to be, I think when I started out, more of a literary author like that. But then I realized that, I really like a beginning, a middle, and an end, to a book, and even though I didn't write that first book, it was just a standalone book, The Cold Dish, like that. But even though, it wasn't meant to be a series like that, that comfort of an ensemble of characters, to me was really kind of important. And that's been something that's been a continual joy, in writing the books, having that ebb and flow of different characters. I mean, if it was the same amount of the same characters in every book, then the books would become very formulaic like that. But when you can kind of use those characters as a little bit more of, like chess pieces on a chessboard, and you move the different ones for what it is that you need, that makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I think also, writing a book in many ways is like conducting a choral group. What I always tell students is I always tell them, you're only going to get a chance to describe a character one time, only once. But that character is going to speak, for the rest of the entire novel. And so you shouldn't, use all of your energies trying to make them physically different from all the other characters. They should sound different from all the other characters. It's a key element, learning, how people speak, the language they use, the words, the cadence, the phrasing, the everything about it, the syntax, the grammar, all of it like that. And you really need those voices to be completely different from any other character in your book. So that would be one of the things I would say, is to really focus on the differences between those characters.
Okay, great. So now I have questions about you as a person.
Oh, no.
So what is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
Oh, my goodness. What is it most people don't know about me? Huh. I, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of an open book. I really, haven't hidden very much about myself like that. And so people know an awful lot about me. I spend a lot of time, doing work here at the ranch, building things. I mean, I built the whole ranch myself. I actually, built the buildings, wiring, plumbing, all of the things like that make up this ranch, the barn, the shops, all of that. So I like tinkering. I like taking things apart and putting them back together. I've got a whole shop of like, old vehicles that I work on and everything. And I don't know if that's that much different, from a novel. I mean, you build the novel at first and then you go back and rebuild the novel as many times as you can get away with. Okay. So I think, I've got one of those minds that likes taking things apart and putting them back together, which I probably come by honestly. I remember as a child seeing my father in our garage with an entire automatic transmission taken apart on the floor and him looking up at me and going, nothing is ever as complicated as it first looks. And I kind of, I kind of carry that with me everywhere I go.
Wow, you're Craig of all trades.
Yeah, master of none.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, okay, what is or are your passions when you're not writing? And how do you make time for the things that that you love?
Oh, I have a lot of passions. Like I was saying, I've got a lot of old vehicles I like to work on. I love fly fishing. I go up to Alaska and fish, once about a week every year. I have an old cabin up on the mountains like that I've rebuilt, and I like spending time on the mountain, about 8,000 feet, in the heart of the Bighorn National Forest. It's a very peaceful place, in a place that, I call home. And I like hiking. I like mountain climbing. I did a lot more mountain climbing when I was younger. Certainly a lot more technical stuff like that, but just alpine climbing, where you throw a pack on your back, and just head up the mountains, and get up in the glaciers and the snow and all of that. Snow and winter weather's never bothered me, which is a good thing right today, since we're getting about 15 inches of snow here in the middle of October. But yeah, getting out and being on horseback. I love the horses. I love going down and spending time with them, down the tack shed or, saddling one up and going riding. That's kind of important to me too. I once got asked, it was a pretty good question in an interview, and they said, well, it's a zombie apocalypse, and which one do you want, a pickup truck, a motorcycle, or a horse? And I was like, well, even with the disadvantage of the zombies eating the horse, I wouldn't let them. I'd get away from them. And I've never been nuzzled by a motorcycle or a pickup truck. So I'd probably go with the horse.
Okay. What does your writing space look like, and what do you need to have around you when you're writing?
Oh, my writing space is actually a loft here at the ranch, and it's kind of up and away from the rest of the house, so I don't have the ringing phones and the television and all those things, kind of bothering me when I'm trying to write. It's kind of isolated up there, and it's quiet. I can put music on if I want, some noise, or if I want some music or something like that. And then, I have a desk up there that I sit at, and it's got a window, and I can look north, up along the Bighorn Mountains, up into Montana, and it's a good place to write. It's a good place to be. I used to be a lot more particular, in answer to your question, about sitting in my chair at my desk, looking out my window with my little cup of coffee, and my computer and all of that. But as time has gone by, you get a little less precious, is what happens like that. You find yourself writing in hotel rooms, in Dubuque, Iowa. You find yourself writing in train stations in Paris, wherever it is that you happen to be, that's the place where you make your own, and it becomes the place where you write.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer music or silence when you write?
It varies. It varies. If I'm in a very emotive section, of a book, where I need there's a lot of dramatic conflict or a lot of things happening or summoning up emotions or a place or things like that. Yeah, then I'll throw some music on like that. And I love music. And a lot of times I'll use soundtracks to movies that I've never heard, or never seen rather. And that's really kind of emotive like that, because it's very evocative music. But if you don't have any kind of, visual imagery, to go along with it, then you can fill in the gaps yourself.
Interesting. And you mentioned you have coffee with you. Is that the drink of your choice? And do you need any food with you, or?
No, I'm at the point in my life where having snacks too available is not a good thing like that. And then, and then coffee. Yeah. I mean, that's, my best times for writing are in the mornings. I like to get up really early, before things get going, and be able to sit down and, and put the hours in that I need to put in early in the morning when I'm focused and have a lot of energy. I taper off late in the afternoon, and so, and also there are other things that require my attentions, being here at the ranch. But yeah, coffee's kind of important to the whole process, I'd say.
Okay. And writers often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions with them. And I noticed you have the cats you were talking about.
I do.
And do they help you or hinder you in your writing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would never, call animal companionship a hindrance. Like as a general rule, I mean, the cats are the only ones that can really get up, in the loft. We've got a Bernese Mountain Dog by the name of Annie, who here, hold on, maybe I can, give you a view of Annie.
Oh, yeah.
There she is, asleep on the floor, guarding her bone. And paying absolutely no attention to my interview at all. But she's awfully good companionship, and an awful lot of the times whenever I'm off, like and going and doing library events, or bookstore events, here in the area, when I'm driving like that in the truck, I'll load Annie up, and Judy, of course, like that, and take them with me. It's kind of that way, you have your friends with you, when you're out and about.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And I only have two more questions for you, actually.
Okay.
Where can people find your work aside from Annie's Book Stop of Worcester, of course?
Well, we're pretty prevalent like that. We've been on the New York Times bestsellers list, for the last 12 books. Like with the TV show and the success of it, we're pretty available like that, and we're available online. We're available at all fine independent bookstores, the Barnes and Nobles, the Amazons, and everywhere else like that. Everywhere you can find good books, we'll generally be there like that. And but certainly like at the independent bookstores are the ones that are near and dear to my heart. It's like that because that to me is where I do the majority of my book shopping. It's one of the occupational hazards. I just got off tour, and I think I got off tour with about 40 books. Whenever you go into bookstores, that's one of the things I don't have any defense, against. I walk into a bookstore, I'll be waiting to do an event, or I'll be there signing afterwards and look up on the shelves and see something, or somebody will tell me, about a book that they read that they thought was really good. And I have no ability to not buy books. Look at I like books. I enjoy books, and I like reading. Look at it. If I had to make a choice between writing and reading, I don't know what I'd do. I have stacks of books everywhere, and it's an important part of my life. But yeah, the Walt Longmire books are pretty much available just about everywhere.
Okay, great. And I think most authors say that the one thing that they have to do is read.
I think so. I mean, you can, it's a wonderful input, to see how other people, are doing, what it is that they're doing. A number of authors, while I was out on tour, Wiley Cash had a wonderful book come out. Amor Towles has a new book coming out. There are just a number of really remarkable writers out there that, I consider, to be, excellent writers. I would loathe to have to, compare myself, to some of them. I consider them to be so talented. And, that's one of the joys, is reading the books of people that you think are extraordinarily talented and challenging yourself, by saying, boy, this is really, really good. And, I better up my game, and try and write the best books that I possibly can. You try and feed your head, as much as you try and feed your body. And feeding it good writers, that ups your game, makes you try a little harder.
That's true. And my last question for you is, how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Well, let's see. Well, I mean, I'm on social media. Like I've got a Facebook page, Craig Allen Johnson. I've got a website, like at CraigAllenJohnson.com. And I think we're on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. I'm not too sure like that. I'm fortunate in that I've got some technical people. All I have to do is provide content, and they'll put it all out and into all the places that it needs to go. But I have a good time doing that too. I have to laugh, whenever I get emails, because I've got a contact button, on the back flap of my books, like that's CraigAllenJohnson.com, and people go there and they hit the contact button and write me an email, and I have to laugh because generally the emails start off with whoever it is that answers Mr. Johnson's emails, and I'm always sitting here at the ranch looking at the computer and going, well, that would be me, and it's a lot of times I'll write people back and it's like a quiz. They want to give me a quiz to make sure it really is me. And sometimes I fail. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But I do the best I can like that. And I think it's, another one of those things where it's kind of important, to be in touch, with your readership and to be out there, where they can ask you questions, and want to know, things about the characters, about that world, all those things. That's a joy to me, to have that interaction.
That is great. I think that's wonderful that you're able to answer people's emails, especially mine.
It's apparently so much I couldn't shave this morning, I guess. So I apologize for that. So.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this interview, and hopefully you will get to Boston someday, or the Boston area.
Absolutely. Well, I know Judy's going to have to come back to Fenway again. I periodically buy her tickets to a Red Sox game, and get her back there, that. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. That. It's interesting to me. My goodness, that, anytime I get a chance, I get to head to New England, I will, in a heartbeat. It's a very different part of the country, from the part of the country where I am. And to me, that's always very interesting and a joy. I have to admit.
Well, we're not really in Boston. We're totally different city.
I know. But that's kind of the embarkment point, isn't it? At Logan Airport, it seems like every time I go to anywhere in New England, they always send me through Logan Airport, and then throw me in a rental car and off I go. And so, I've been up in Maine, and in New Hampshire and Vermont, and into Connecticut too, and of course Massachusetts, that. But bouncing around all over.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully we will see you in Worcester.
Okay, it's a deal.
All right. Next time you get to this area, you have got to contact me, and we'll see you in our store.
It's a deal.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Bye.